Hello and welcome to the Face Building Podcast, episode 45, with your lovely and amazing hosts, Vladi, Kuna.
And Norman Gräter. Hi, guys.
Hello, and today's topic is all about dreams and goals. And I'm quite sure we all learned a lot about how to achieve goals, how to build your dream, put it in a goal, and actually achieve the goal. And today we want to highlight a little bit the do's and the don'ts based on our own experience, and why sometimes it's counterproductive to have a huge goal. And we want to look into that, why this is the case and what you can do instead. And I know goals are Vladi's favorite topics. So do you want to kick it off with some golden nuggets that you have when it comes to goals?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. You know, guys, it's important to set the goal, but I'm going to repeat what we said about the last two episodes. The goal is not so much for what you have to achieve and to-do list and tick off. It is for who you become in the process of achieving that goal. Norman's very right. We've been in this industry of personal development for many years now, and we were mentored by many people who said, set the huge goal, like we don't disagree with it, but we disagree to agree or agree to disagree. What we've monitored for the last few years and coaching clients is when people set up way too big goals, they usually give up in a way much easier, faster. They lose faith. They feel challenges because it takes time to get to the big goal. So when you think about setting a smaller goals, what you're doing is also you're programming yourself to believe that you can achieve it. It's more believable for you. Therefore, you will achieve the goal. So it's kind of easier to push. I love Brian Proctor's book, 12 Easy Steps, and I might not be saying it correctly, but Google it, 12 Easy Steps to Change Your Life. And his whole principle is if you focus on doing small things every day, and Science of Getting Rich, Wallace the Bottle said the same, do small things in the greater and grand way. So what it means, if you can focus on enjoying the journey, rather than being at the destination and rushing through it and getting it fast, then you will experience immediate success. So what is setting a goals? We set the goals, and we've been discussing this, but yes, there are goals which are the goals which you don't believe you can do, which are almost like this unreachable, impossible things to do, or something that we feel it's just we don't believe we can do it. But if you can feel the excitement and scareness, I do believe that. I'm a believer that if you feel that the goal is that it scares you and excites you at the same time, it is the good goal. It shouldn't be easy goal enough to say, oh, I know how to buy a car. Well, I already bought quite a few new cars, so that's not really a goal. It's kind of like you're repeating the same goal. You already know how to do it. You've done it before, but Proctor used to call it a goal. Then the B goal, what he used to say, it's something that you can figure out, you can ask or pay an expert, and you can set that big goal that you've never done it before. So it's harder, but you can figure out. And this C goal, which, for sake of reference, we will call it ABC. It's this big goal of yours, which you have no idea how you're going to reach, but it really excites you and scares you at the same time. So it is right way. I think you should have a huge vision and use your imagination to live in this vision where you're seeing a movie of your life that you would absolutely love to experience. The prosperity consciousness that you're staying as often as possible and feeling it naturally. But I will say this, unless you trained, and I'm going to say this lovingly, you're disciplined, you're strong enough to really push through like athletes. Athletes are good. They go for the impossible. They want to pass the record that was, become the first in the world, and they work hard and they really set this new goal for themselves, and they're willing to, because they're very disciplined already. Usually they really have a high mindset already. So it's just like pushing your boundaries and limiting and facing that terror barrier. Whereas people who are genuinely not used to set up a big goals, like you want to buy your first home and buy a new car and you have a new family, you want to take them on holidays, like all these things that people desire to have, but they've never done them before, and maybe perhaps they're not in the financial situation they would love to be yet, or maybe they don't have, that enough confidence, whatever it is that you feel that it's currently stopping you. Remember, it's temporary. I'm gonna say that first. But secondly, setting smaller goals and more achievable goals will actually train your body and a neural path to go for things and achieve them. Celebrate yourself. You feel like, yeah, this is possible for me. And then you set the bigger goal and it's more achievable. And that way you train yourself to actually be okay to set a bigger goals. But we would now love to lovingly remind everyone that really feel where you are in your own kind of energy and decisions and how much risk taking also you can do, because really risk taking is part of the terror barrier facing and the new goal setting. So it's really important to just really pay attention and know yourself, discover yourself. Who are you? Be honest with seeing who I am now and how much I can take and what are my abilities. Like setting huge goals is great, but we've seen many people who took many loans, like high loans, and they've taken strains, and it's not that they failed, because failure is just opportunity to grow, but it really brought quite negative experiences in their life. So, Norman, I'll hand it to you right now before taking it further.
I totally agree with you, Vladi, and that's the main thing. Like Bob Proctor told us, you need to have a C goal. Like you see my movie chair, my Academy Award, all the things in the background that are part of my vision boards. I see them every day, which gives me the feeling and the knowing it's already there. Still, if you're not trained, if you're not constantly in the study, and like Vladi just shared, if you just maybe start with setting big goals, don't start too big, because you will not get, let me call it, the connection with your reality. If you say, I'm a happy, healthy millionaire, but you're broke right now and you have minus 500 on your account, you won't believe that. Your brain won't buy that and say, no, I'm not happy, I'm not healthy, and I'm for sure no millionaire. So you will create a lot of counter intentions, which means, of course, you say it every day, you write it 100 times, but everything within you says, no, no, no. So what Vladi suggested, I will support as well. Set a big vision. Make a C goal vision, kind of, to say, okay, that's my vision, that's where I want to go, and it's huge. And then create a goal that is so big that it draws you towards it, that there's some aim you have, some push, some force, kind of the next step, and make it as small that you still believe it. And this would be your chief aim. So what's your chief aim in your life currently? Do you have your big vision? And I'm quite sure if you're listening to us frequently, you already have a big vision. You're a thinker, you're creative, you say, I want to inspire the world, I want to leave a legacy, stuff like this. This would be a grand vision, C-type goal. I leave a legacy like Bob Proctor, I want to be in every country, stuff like that. Still, if you're just starting, your brain always asks, yeah, but how, but how, but how? So what would be the next logical step on this way to be present in every country with the product or the service that you have? Maybe you start in your own town. And if you say, that's way too small, then let's go maybe in your area where you live or in your country, which in my case, I think it's too big. So start smaller. Create something that's big enough, again, that it pushes you out of the seat and say, yeah, I'm going to reach that. I can master that, and make it as small as you still believe it's possible to do. Otherwise, you will run from one wall to the next one. And of course, your brain has no clue how to be happy, healthy, and a millionaire. But could your brain think about one way and only one way, what Vladi shared in the beginning? It's all about the next step. If you're on a staircase, the only important thing is the next step you take. If you can master step number 20 or 48, we will know when we get there. But we don't need to think when we're on the bottom floor about step number 48, that's probably on the third floor. No, your only concern needs to be the next logical step. So what is in your case the next logical step? Small enough that you believe it, big enough to draw you, because then automatically you feel good on the way achieving it. Like those counter intentions would be the worst thing that happen. If you feel bad within, if you don't believe it within, you can work as hard as you want. If your frequency is different, is vibrating on a different frequency, like, no, 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 that's not possible, it's too big, I don't know how, it's not the truth, there's no money coming in, all those things, you're feeling, that is what you draw back in your life. Therefore, you don't get in life what you want. You get more of who you really are and what you vibrate. And I'm not quite sure if it was Napoleon Hill or somebody else. He said something very smart. You become what you think about most of the time. And the same thing with your goals and with your intentions and your dreams. What do you focus on most of the time? Like, it's a long way to go and I have no idea how to achieve it. Or do you say, next level, I can do that. I can clean up my room today, just 5 pieces. Maybe I move those 5 pieces from one corner to another corner. So the one corner seems clean, but you get more into trouble the next day because the second corner is even fuller. Can you just remove 2-3 things out of your stuffed kitchen? Can you throw 1 or 2 things away where your brain says, well, 1-2 things, I think I can handle that. But it's 1-2 things more than you did the days before. Can you make little tiny steps? Because the next positive thing is you have a lot of success stories and a lot of success moments to share. Yeah, I made it. Yeah, you worked on it for 10 seconds and you already have a success story, rather than saying, no, I'm only happy when this Oscar is real behind me. And this might take a while, this might go very fast, but the more positive spirit and frequency you send out, the more you will get back. And this would be my best advice for you how to start.
You know, I love what you said, and I'm gonna go back to all the teachings and how we were learning actually in the studies, and that something, there's so many discussions about, do I put the deadline to my goal or do I just leave it a genuine? The one thing we really agree on is you should write it in a present tense, because you must come from the end. So when you're living in your vision and you're feeling as if you already have that right now and feeling gratitude, because what prosperity consciousness means, it means that you embody the person who you desire to be. So you think from the end. So you act, think, and become the person you desire to be in the now. We're talking about these mental practices. So writing your goal statement in the present tense, like obviously, this is what Bob taught us. Also, I'm so very happy, deeply grateful, and relaxed in the knowing now that, and you fill in the goal, but use the words of joy. There's no right or wrong way of writing it. Okay, there might be a wrong way, because if you write, I want to be debt free, you're obviously inviting more debt into your life. Rather, so the statements you make can be harmful. However, I'm going to say this. It's what you believe and what you vibrate. We label things. And sometimes we label things in a way that people hear it. And I'll give you an example. I used to have it in here. I was going to turn around whether it's still there. It says, nothing is impossible with God. I had this board behind me, and I love that statement. It kind of like empowers me. I wrote it when I watched my favorite movie, Facing the Giants. And somebody pointed out to me and saying, oh, you should change that statement because it's a negative way of saying it. You should transform it into the positive statement, which is, all things are possible with God. Now, and we had this discussion with Norma, for me, the vibration and the power that comes through me when I say nothing is impossible with God is way stronger than everything is possible with God. So we label things. So pay attention to how you feel about that statement, not how other people feel about it. Because just because it works for one person doesn't mean it works for all of them. So going back to how you write the statement of the goal, I remember we were told to write the goal 50 times. What do you think about that? I even had the affirmation from my coach saying, I'm so happy and grateful now that I love writing my goal 50 times a day, because I hated it. My hand hurt and I was just writing that one statement 50 times every day. That was the initial kind of study. This force negates. The emotions I was invoking by writing the goal 50 times wasn't positive. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't really putting me on a higher elevated vibration. So is that really a good way to go? No. Now, yes, writing creates thinking. So I still love writing my goal once. And I actually got in a habit of writing it in the left hand sometimes. Do I have a day when I actually don't write it? Yes, I do actually. I don't write it every single day anymore. But majority times when I look at my gratitude, because it's part of my gratitude journal, I do write the goal on the top because I feel it. I live in my vision, and I no longer believe that if I miss a day, it's not going to happen. But I could see how many people get stressed about it and how many people create so much more resistance around writing it, and they unsure, and this was me years ago, unsure whether the goal is correct one or whether I should rewrite it. If you're already doubting your own goal, how do you want it to manifest? You're already creating a vibration that you don't believe that the goal is correctly written and it's maybe not the right goal. What you need to focus on is really connecting to the true inside of you and choosing the why behind the goal, because that's the power. We talked about intentions, which is a similar thing, but it's not quite the same. What is the why you would love to achieve this goal? And it really ties you to what would you love? Not what your partner wants, what your parents want, what your friends want, what your coaches want. What would you love? And why? Why do you want it? And the reason why you're eliminating to have the right goal. Why? Because sometimes we're conditioned to please our parents from a childhood. So I wanted to be a lawyer because I've listened to for so many years that I'm going to have a better job and better career. I'm going to have people going to view me differently. I'm going to be somebody else. Well, and that wasn't true. I've studied law and I wasn't happy, and I deviated from it too because I wasn't fulfilled. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it and I loved the law, but it wasn't my thing. And so many times we just then stick with that one job we have, and we go to the job we hate and we moan about it, and every day we repeat the same story. You have one life to live. Yes, we have to pay the bills, but you're going to stay in the job you hate entire life just because it pays you money? Is that really worth it? Because for your goal, you're giving up life for it. So is it really worth it? You know, we used to have this question, is that goal, Norman, help me out here, is the goal worthy of you? And it's the other way around. Are you worthy of your goal, or is that goal worthy of you? Because you're giving up your life for it. So actually, my why behind the goal, if it's a kids or a family, and I remember when we went to, and actually Norman was there, when we were in Canada to one of these events, and our mentor Phil Goldfine was there, and he was telling people about how he became the best producer in Hollywood and really where he got himself to. And then somewhere in that whole conversation, he dropped that his kids were always his why behind it. And he saw in his vision how his kids were so proud. Oh, this is a movie of my daddy. I mean, that struck me, and it always stayed in my mind because so many people pay attention to what did he do. People are so obsessed with what's the step he took, and I want to get there. But you're actually not paying attention and listening with your heart. And remember, hearing things, it's not listening. Hearing is you just hear what the words they say. When you listen, you're actually listening how people speak from their heart. So what is your why behind the goal? And what is it the goal you truly want? Or you just want approval of others, or you want to prove someone something that you've achieved because they're criticizing you? That's not the right why. So I would say when you set up your goals, focus more on the why behind it and whether it's your goal and not somebody else's, than writing it 50 times, and just think from the goal. So deadline, no deadline. I don't put deadlines to the goal genuinely, but I would say this. Put a deadline if it's something, because we're human beings. We're habitual creatures. The urgency always pushes us to do things a little bit differently. Not necessarily be flexible with it. So don't get so attached to the deadline that you're now stressed out around it, but really just put that flexibility where you say, I did the best I could. I didn't achieve it on this. I'm going to just move it for another 2 months. And you're just really easygoing about it, like no stress. But it is sometimes good because I can see it in myself. If I set a deadline, I do things that push me in a better way and I can achieve it faster, but without the stress. If I feel that I'm overloaded, I just move it to another week. So I'd say be very flexible with it. Norman.
The deadline, you will feel it in the first second you say or think something if a deadline helps. In most cases, it doesn't help. Just imagine you tell yourself, I make 1 million in 1 week. And if you're Jeff Bezos, you smile and say, I know I make it in a minute. If you're a regular person with a regular income, you can already feel by thinking about it, I make 1 million in 1 week, how everything contracts inside and you think, how? And this is the end of the story. It will never work. How about you would say, I make 1 million during my lifetime? And in my case, I'm 48, so for sure I have another 50 years plus. Can I believe to make 1 million in 50 years plus? Sure. Can I believe I make it in a week? I don't know. If I have never done it before, no. Again, counter intentions. So you will know by your feeling if it's a good thing to set a date or not. And what Vladi said earlier, every word has a vibration attached to it. And let's go into something that I usually teach in my one-on-one teachings because it's so important to understand why sometimes the negative version helps the person more than the positive. Like, everything is good with God, everything is possible with God. It's good. But how about nothing is impossible? Nothing. You can feel there's more strength and power behind this. No, until here and not further. Without God, or with God on my side, nothing is impossible. You have much more power. Every human being has 7 nerve highways for negative and 1 for positive, which means for all of us, negative is 7 times stronger than positive. And this brings us to the first law of goal achievement that hardly anybody talks about, because they always say, set a C goal, be positive, think positive, only say positive words, never say no, or never say, I don't want to get sick. Yeah, of course, you don't have a picture for don't get sick, and the universe does not understand no, and I don't want to. It only understands the energy. And we realize that we have way more power if we say what we don't want anymore rather than what we want. Because most of the times you wish to be rich. But do you want to be rich? Hard, right? Unless you use the first rule, you have to find something that you absolutely hate in your life. Until this point and not any centimeter further. This is it. And we all had situations like that when people nagged you and hit you or did whatever until a certain point where it just clicked and you said, okay, now this is the end of my supportive line that I have, and now it stops. And you can feel already by me saying that how much more power is in that. So what you want to do is you want to find out what do you want. And then you find out what you don't want anymore. Tony Robbins would say you need to raise your standards. If you say, oh, for sure I can fly coach class, it doesn't matter, I don't care. A little bit more space in business class, different food, but it's not worth the money. The universe will not send you business class tickets. But if you say, I'm raising my standards, not for one flight anymore, I will put my ass in this tiny seat with this crappy food and with this stinking people around me. Not anymore. You need to make it a must. Then you will draw the right energy to pull it. And if you have ever been at the UPW with Tony Robbins, he does the Dickens method at one point in those couple of days of the seminar, where he really gets you to the point where you feel what would happen if I don't achieve my goal. And not just now, you go into the future. And so if I don't make the money, if I don't get the job, if I don't lose the relationship, you make the problem worse and worse and worse. When I did that, I really had physical pain in my body. I was screaming that I don't want to have this life anymore. And this is the power you need. The real and true power does not come from, yeah, it would be nice if, of course, at one point it might come, but for sure not soon. And that's the difference why some people just go through the roof. They have a necessity to achieve it. They feel, eat, breathe it because they say, like Vladi said about God, everything is possible. No, nothing is impossible with God on my side. You know, there's more power. And the reason, if we go into NLP, this brings me to the one-on-one training, we have different meta programs. And meta programs are there when the switch is being flipped to motivate us. And there are 16 total, and usually there are 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 against each other. And it's not against like good, bad, it's just left, outside, right, outside. And it doesn't matter if it's left or right, it's just outside, outside. And one meta program, like 2 that are facing each other, is towards a goal and away from a pain. Which means some people are driven towards a goal, but most people on this planet are driven away from the pain. Which means, how do you motivate a person that's drawn towards a goal? You just put a carrot on the stick, you throw it out, and you say, just follow the carrot for the next couple of months, and you will reach it. And this person walks. Like my Porsche Arena project, 6 years. No, this must be towards a goal. Because away from a pain means I start walking towards my goal, but I realize after 1, 2, 3 days, it's hard, it's expensive, it takes a long time. May I be able to achieve it? I don't know. And you fall back, which means you need someone to really kick your butt every day to raise the heat, like on the stove. You need to put fire under those people's asses. And if you have a goal like filling out a big venue over 6 years, who should I have to put fire under my butt that I keep walking? No, I kept walking by myself. And if you look into the world, most people are pushed by the pain. They finally start doing something when the pain is so strong that they say, okay, this is it. As long as it's too well and too good, and we can look into the world, at least in Germany, we talk about stuff where you really have to shake your head and question if humanity is still ticking in the right way. We have so many real issues that we could focus, but we don't have them over here. We have enough water, we have enough resources, everyone owns something. We have luxury problems. And if you have luxury problems, you get so bored that you start digging out certain things where most people say, this is just ridiculous. Why are we talking about that? It makes no sense at all. That you complain that the wine is too warm, that you complain that your schnitzel takes too long to be on your plate, that you complain that it's too warm or too cold outside. That's luxury problems. So for most people, they don't move their butt because they feel way too comfortable, which gives the question into our room, what can you do to really turn on the heat and push you somewhere because you say, this is it, and I'm not going to allow that anymore.
I love that. I made lots of notes. I'm going to say this, guys, because we're coming to the end. Be in love with your goal. I mean it. Because it doesn't matter what you want. Sometimes people say, oh, this is just silly. It doesn't matter. It's your dream. If it's a car you want and you want to drive a fast luxury car, and I remember this because one of my clients said, but my mom said I should first focus on the family and the house and everything, but every time the car drives past, he's just fired up. He wants to see himself in a car. I said, that's what you want. That's what you should get. Because that we logically try and choose the steps how to get so you don't have to worry about how. I think that is one of the most valuable lessons that Bob Proctor taught us, is you do not now have to worry about how. When you choose the right goal and connect to the right life and vision and things that really fire up your soul, like, you will find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. But where there's a will, there's a way usually works with the right goals. Because if you don't have the right goal, you're not even willing to go for it. You're not willing and able to go for it. So pay attention to all quadrants of your life. We talk about 4 quadrants. One is love and relationship. One is health and well-being. One is your time and financial freedom. And the other one is your job or life path or employment. It doesn't matter. We usually focus all our energy towards one goal, but when we're talking about these huge goals, are they under the umbrella of all 4 quadrants of your life? Because you get what you want or who you become. Because if you want only money, you will have the money. But are you at the end of your life going to enjoy them with the right people? Because now that you're sitting there, you build relationships in your entire life. And we talk about this often with Norman. When we become the amount of success, or lots of people become super successful, rich and famous, and doesn't matter what they want. But the thing is, when you're sharing your wealth and time in all those years you built to become really where you would love to go, you're not going to be interesting now. All the friendships and people who come at you are popping up from nowhere and want to be friends with you because you're now famous and rich and all these people. But these people, they know who their circle of people are. So really live your life in a way that you still your high stress self. It doesn't matter what goals you set, but set the right ones for you. Set the ones that you're in love with, and set the ones that actually influence all your life, not just financial. You can be rich but unhealthy, or you can be very healthy but broke. None of it really is a wealth. Wealth means you have great relationships, you have enough money and time. I mean, the more financial freedom we have, the more happier we can create a life if we are that kind of people. And we talk about money only makes you more of who you are anyway. So really, what is it you would love? Connect to your desire. Have the right intention, right why behind the goal, and just be in love with it. And you will come and follow any obstacles, but really focus on your joy and growth and be better every day. So focus on that, who you're becoming in the process of achieving that goal, because that is the key. And I'll hand it back to Norman to land this a couple of minutes over.
There's nothing more to add. I think you have now enough tools to think about. And what Vladi shared, if you have that big dream, that big goal, if you are a person that is drawn towards a goal, this will work for you. And if you're drawn away from a pain, it works for you for a certain time, and then you fall back. You need to build up more pain. What would happen if you don't get it? Just think about that. What would be the worst thing? And this is the last idea we give you today. If I say to you, you lose 5 pounds in a week, and you say, no, this is not possible. Or first of all, you believe me and you start, and after 2-3 days, you say, I'm not quite sure. I need to find out what really hurts you, where really your pain is. And if you say, money is right now my pain, I say, okay, if you master losing 5 pounds in a week, I give you 100. But if you fail losing this weight in a week, I take 1,000 and I wire those $1,000, euros, pounds, whatever, to, I don't know, the worst thing you can imagine, the Ku Klux Klan. So you say, no, not in the world, never ever do those bastards get 1 cent from me. And you can already see the passion you put in that. And I'm going to achieve that I put through, they don't get my money. Now there's the motivation you need. Again, if you're drawn towards a goal, you don't need the pain. But most people are drawn away from the pain. Try that and let us know how your results are. We look forward to see and hear you again next week. Until then, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.